Pricing in manufacturing. Let's look at pricing something people manufacture, like tables. Lots of tables, tables here and there, tables everywhere. Right. Turn to your activity book. You might want to pause the video and think, when you're manufacturing a table, what sort of costs do you think that you will incur? Pause the video and write your thoughts in your activity book. This is a table. This happens to be from IKEA, in fact. And these are the costs that I thought about. So you need some wood. You'll need some varnish. You need to process everything. So you're going to get some costs in terms of amount, like kilograms, some costs in terms of pounds, some costs in terms of time. You have to assemble it. Then you've got to sell it. You might have rent on your studio or workshop. You have to light and heat your workshop. So any that you got and I didn't get, you feel free to put them down. If those are costs you thought of, that's fine. And I only thought of a few. What we're going to do now, though, divide those costs into two camps. So have a go at putting them into these two categories. Variable costs are those that increase with the number of units made. So wood might be a variable cost. The more tables I make, the more wood I use. Then there are fixed costs. These do not change with the output, like rent, light and heat. Sometimes subscriptions and annual memberships. Some costs can be either, so selling costs, depends on the cost that you were thinking of. Okay. Sometimes they charge monthly or per item, so have a think about that as well. Again, you might want to pause the video and put the cost that you identified into these two headings. I did it like this. So I said, okay, variable costs are those that increase with the number of units made. So wood. The more tables I make, the more wood I make. The more wood that I use. Okay? And I put them into these categories. There are costs in the middle. And you might have thought of some. I'll give you a minute to have a think. You might want to pause the video. See if there are any semi-variable costs you think of. And they have some sort of fixed element, they have some sort of variable element. I thought of these two. So telephone, a landline, you might get your line rental versus calls. Utilities, you might get a standing charge versus your usage. When you start budgeting, you may not want to go into this level of depth. You might just want to say, do you know what? I know I always pay £30 a month for my mobile. So that's that. Do you know? Let's move on. So update your student workbook and let's move on. This is how you calculate your costs. So you add up all your variable costs, you add on your fixed costs, and that will give you total. I haven't put it on the slide, but what I'm doing here is I'm calculating, say, the pounds per unit. You see what I mean? Now that's easy for the variable cost because you know how much wood you need for a table. The fixed cost you're going to have to divide by the number of units that you make in the time the cost is charged. But you might say to me, there's nothing seismic in what you're saying here. Well, most of the problem comes in pricing from cost identification chaos. People write down the first thing that they think, that's great, and they stop there, that's not so great. You really want to be reviewing your cost and checking that you are capturing everything. Okay? Right. You also then want to look at whether you're underestimating costs. I read an article that said the brain is actually a very bad agent for remembering certain things, and people do tend to underestimate costs, particularly when there's a side hustle and some of your costs are incurred anyway. Then there's missing costs you just don't think about. Did anyone put down insurance or travel? Yeah, because if you're selling your table, you have to take it somewhere to sell it, or do you? Sometimes people underestimate their profit needs because we're being humble, but the bills must be paid. And the worst of all of these, the biggest one, is a lack of monitoring. Often we don't come back and revisit. We think, oh, that's paperwork. I don't want to do it. I'm not interested. This is not so. Please, please be interested. So, calculating your price. Right. How it works is this. So, you've got your sales. You take out your costs. That gives you your profit. Great. No, we've just been through an exercise of estimating the costs. Yeah? Sometimes people will say, do you know what, per table, I just want to make this much profit. So then you would put the profit in here. And then you say, well, I'm thinking of a number, the sales. I take away the costs and I get the profit. The way you do that is take your costs, add on your profit, and that will give you your sales. So you work back up. Sometimes people will say, do you know what, I want 25% profit off every item. That happens when, say with tables, you are competing with several other companies like IKEA, like might be Dunelm, it might be Clas Ohlson, it might be Sears, it might be anybody. And someone has said to you, Sears make 30% profit on their tables. So you say, I want my profit to be 30% because I'm feeling like Sears. Okay? Then you calculate your selling price in this way. You take your total cost, I would say 1 plus profit percentage. Here's 25%, so it's 0.25. That will give me my selling price. Okay? Let's have a go. Right. First example is Chloe. So Chloe makes wedding dresses. I'd ask you to pause the video while you read this and try and estimate her costs in your activity book. Right, this is the answer that I got. Yeah? So, and you can always tell that these are given, the variable costs are given per unit. The fixed costs you then have to divide by the number of units you feel that you are going to make. Okay? Let's have another go. Oh, I missed a slide there. Right, so you go through, and now we calculate the price. Yeah, so you got your variable and fixed. She says she wants profits of 500, so I think of a number. I take away 69.31, I get 500. I work back up, 569 per dress. I happen to know that wedding dresses retail for considerably more than that. But there we are. Okay, have another go. Let's look at Henry. Okay, the question is in your student pack. Pause the video while you have a go. So this is the answer. And if you forget to divide your fixed costs by the number of units he's going to make, you find you get some crazy number. So if I didn't divide, I'd get 33 plus 1,220, and that's just too much for a table, and this is a high-end table. So we go through and we calculate his price. Yeah. Now this is interesting because you are looking at that thinking, I could get that cheaper in IKEA. Yes, you probably could. And right at the end, we are going to talk about what happens when your price is too high. What happens when you find you aren't fitting in with the market. But this is what happened with Henry. So over to you. So think of your product that you are thinking of launching or you have launched. What's the minimum price you would accept for your product? That's always going to be what the product cost you. Okay? Well done on getting this far.